everybody. And welcome to Smash TV, where we will look at all the media we have consumed this week. We started off with the movie American Honey featuring Shia LaBeouf and some other people I have never heard or seen of. It's a story of a young girl who flees her dreadful existence and joins a traveling magazine sales crew, something I didn't even know existed. The movie consists of several scenes that in some way or the other gets repeated a couple of times, making this already 3-hour-long movie even longer. The story and the film do not bore, but at the 2-hour mark, I felt the movie should have ended as it offers nothing new for the viewer. This, however, could have very well been the point of the director to illustrate the mundane life these people lead. Overall, I think this movie is okay, and I would recommend it if you like autobiographical and semi-documentary movies. Check that. Next is the 1931 movie The Miracle Woman by Frank Capra, with Barbara Stanwyck as a disgruntled preacher's daughter going on a tirade against her father's hypocritical church flock. She loses her faith and starts a phony evangelical temple with a con man. Eventually she meets a blind aviator who, of course, falls madly in love with her and brings his blind faith back into her life. I expected more of this film, especially after the strong first scene. It feels like this was meant to be a much stronger film with critiques on faith and maybe even a supernatural spin, but ended up as a strange love story with a clear ethical conclusion. Check that. Following, we watched the Spanish movie El Aviso, or The Warning, about a young boy getting a warning in one of his magazine purchases. We also follow a man who finds out that strange things happened in the gas station where the little boy bought his magazine. I can't say much about this movie without spoiling the plot, so I'll just go to the conclusion. If you like loop or other time travel movies, be sure to check this out. It's a good in-between movie, not quite popcorn material but good with a few tapas and a beer. Check that. Finally, we watched 1976's Shogun Sadism, aka Oxen Split Torture, aka The Joy of Torture 2. This is a Japanese schlock horror movie that, quite frankly, doesn't even feature that much torture. There's a lot more of non-consensual sex than actual torture. Granted, I'm not a big fan of torture fetish movies, but this movie lacks on both terms. There's not much to plot, as it mainly consists of two stories. The first, a Christian family gets persecuted and tortured for what they are. Second, a servant of a brutal master gets tortured and groped a lot. That's about it. If you like this type of movie, there are certainly more gory and modern versions, but as a classic I think this is one of the more mediocre ones. Drop that. The following day we decided to look at Songbird, a British comedy movie with audience favourite girl next door Kobe Smulders, who plays a former 90s Britpop star enrolling in a university trying to recapture her former youth. To say this is a comedy would be overrated, cause to me it was more annoying than everyone else. Most of the time the characters are talking, constantly in an unrealistic and cookie manner. The jokes, if there are any, fall flat, and I can truly say I never cracked a smile even once. This movie reminded me of The Green Wing for some reason, one of the few British comedies I couldn't stomach to watch a minute more of. Drop that. Next up, the 2016 version of The Lighthouse, which is not to be confused with the 2019 version with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. The story, based on a real event, is pretty much the same, though this version stays a bit more grounded in reality versus the almost David Lynchian version that is the 2019 one. Overall, I enjoyed this movie despite the fact that momentum was lost a bit after a certain critical point in the movie. Something which the reboot, remake, reimaging or whatever didn't have. The 2019 version remains the superior one of the two, however, so if you have to choose, pick that one. If you don't, just watch both. Check that. On Friday we watched the sequel to the reboot of Jumanji. Jumanji, The Next Level featured Dwayne Johnson, Karen Gillan, Kevin Hart, and Jack Black. Once again the group of teenagers from the first Jumanji get sucked into the Jumanji video game and they need to escape before they lose all their lives. I found this iteration of Jumanji mostly dull, there were a few comical scenes, especially with Kevin Hart's character who had the most enjoyable way of talking, but for the rest it was nothing special. I don't object to this movie existing, but it offers nothing new and is inferior to the first rebooted Jumanji. Check that. The Last Dragon is an extremely cheesy 1980s martial arts movie where a character named Leroy Green, also known as Bruce Leroy, strives to become the best martial arts master. Much like his idol Bruce Lee, he ventures out in the world in search of the glow which would help him achieve that goal. This movie is filled with cheesy scenes, clothing, lines and overly long musical clips to fill up the time. The fighting scenes are decent, but in the end this isn't what you're watching the movie for. You're watching it for the pure and utter cheesefest it is. Sure, there's a point in this movie where you will get a bit bored, but stick around. It's worth it. This movie is a cult classic and decidedly so. Missing out would be a shame to your inner 80s self. Smash that. After hearing Lord Doomcock talk about this in one of his broadcasts, I decided to start watching Perpetual Grace Limited about a grifter who gets picked up by an elderly couple and decides to con them. Unfortunately, he did not realize he screwed with the wrong people. The series reminds me very much of the excellent Patriots written by the same person. Its quaint style really stands out from anything else and can be compared best with some of the Coen brothers' work, though very unique in its own way. We follow the grifter James as he gets haunted by Paul Allen's brother, chased by Pa and Ma and harassed by a corrupt cop. With only 3 episodes in, the show still needs to unravel, but I'm already hooked, especially seeing how much I enjoyed Patriot. The scene-by-scene progression of this series is often confusing, and at times I didn't know whether I was looking at a flashback or not, but it does so in such a quaint manner you can't but help to watch it a second time to make sure you got everything. Perpetual Grace hopefully gets a second season cause it has a lot to explain, even though you don't know which questions you're asking. Smash that. Day is a short British series on the capture and trial of Scottish serial killer Dennis Nilsen, who was responsible for the death of at least 12 boys and young men. The series itself offers nothing new regarding police or serial killer stories and pretty much follows the same story beats of other shows on this subject. What makes this show great, however, is the performance of David Tennant, who, besides actually resembling the serial killer, plays the role to a T and shows off a chilling, calculated and disturbing vision of a serial killer, not unlike Cameron Britton's portrayal of Ed Kemper in the also excellent Mindhunter. The series is a bit too short for my taste, but it won't leave you hanging or asking for more, since everything pretty much gets addressed in the episodes. Check that. That was it for this week's Smash TV. We thank you for watching and hope to see you next time. Be seeing you.